It seems like it's been over a decade that we've been actually debating the placement and ranking of the big three in J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake. And the reason why we're still having this conversation is because we're entering a new era and they're still dropping music, they're still active, and J. Cole himself seems to be questioning his own placement within that top three after he dropped the Heavens EP, which is a remix to Drake's Pipe Down. So today, that's exactly what we'll be talking about is J. Cole actually behind Kendrick and Drake, or is he above them? And in what ways is he behind or above? So that's the conversation, and it was actually chosen by our Patreon members. So thank you guys for voting. And the options this week were, is J. Cole behind Drake and Kendrick, which got 16 votes. Then we had rap songs carried by the features, which got 5 votes. And then finally, who's the GOAT of SoundCloud rap, which got 10 votes. So thank you guys for voting. And if you want to have your say on future episodes, head over to the link in the description. And you can actually have a say in our content on the weekly for every Wednesday episode. So check that out if you like.
Absolutely. And let's actually shout out our comment of the week. And this week it goes to Beans and Rice. Thank you so much for commenting and engaging with us. It's always a pleasure. And you said, love the passion. Hope y'all get a beer after, LOL, because we had done our free smoke series where Lou and I had gotten pretty heated and we were getting in a bit of a screaming match. But yes, it's all good. Lou and I are on good terms and we did get a beer after. But let's actually talk about this conversation. J. Cole, Kendrick, Drake. Three of the biggest, in my opinion, from the 2010 decade, all in their own respective have different lanes that they dominate, did different things, have released different projects. So do you think that there's any validity to this conversation at all, especially in 2021?
Of course there is, because they were kind of rookies all around the same time coming out with their breakout projects in 2011. I mean, you could say that for Drake, it was So Far Gone in 2009, but I feel like 2011 is kind of that moment where they all took flight, as in being the ones to watch, I would say. So there is validity to having the conversation because of how long they've all been in the game for. And also now that J. Cole is bringing it back into the conversation, and the fact that Drake and Kendrick are still competitive, as we're seeing with, lyrics from them this year, the conversation, has to erupt. It's only bound to happen. So let's take this back to Heaven's EP, where this all started. And on that song, J. Cole raps, "Some people say that I'm running third. They threw the bronze at me behind Drake and Dot. Yeah, them guys is superstars to me." So what was your interpretation of that lyric?
I think it's a humble interpretation. I feel as if he understands where the reception is and he's been hearing all of the comments, but I also think that he didn't necessarily want to attack it in a way where it was a kamikaze vibe where he was just telling everyone, fuck you. No, I think J. Cole knows where he is, and on the off season, on countless songs, he was talking about having that number one throne and talking about, him being in a league above everyone. So I don't think it's a confidence issue either, because he's dropping fire music. He knows the consistency, and he knows he's one of the greatest, MCs to touch a mic from the 2010 decade. Why should that ever be a question? Is oh, he's so far behind them two. I don't think so. And if you even go to what Drake said at the offseason tour in Miami, it was pretty cool because he had addressed the rumors as well. He says, you did that pipe down freestyle the other day and you was saying they handed you the bronze and whatever. Me and Kendrick, I just want you to understand that you are genuinely one of the greatest rappers to touch a mic in this lifetime. And to be honest with you, I agree. How do you feel about that sort of statement from Drake?
To start off with the bar, first of all, I think that it's kind of like J. Cole is taking a step back and accepting that bronze medal. That's the way that I interpreted it, because it sounds like he's not challenging. He's saying, yeah, those guys are superstars to me. And he's like, maybe I'm not seen as that top guy because I'm not in the limelight.
He was just showing love, man.
I don't know. At the end of the day, he is showing love, but I wanted him to see him kind of challenge that. Not only that, but in terms of, Drake going on stage for the offseason tour and, mentioning that J. Cole is one of the greatest to ever do it. I like that, there's actually some support between the two of them. I love seeing them kind of elevate each other. But to me, it kind of felt like Drake was little broing J. Cole and being like, listen, bro, you're a great artist too. We all know what the general consensus is that I'm the bigger artist and I'm higher than you, but you're a great artist too. That's kind of the vibe that I got, because they have been seen to be friends over the years. I mean, Drake gifted him the rollie. They've been close. They've been spotted together. But I just don't feel like that rivalry is dead. I don't feel like it ever could be.
No, but I don't think it'll ever be dead because they're competitive, right? And they all know where they place. But I think that's genuine. Like when someone goes on stage and calls you, one of the best to ever touch a mic, and Drake has been saying this, by the way. Like, this is not the first time he addresses something like this. I think it's true, and I think that Drake understands the power of J. Cole's penship. Like, there are... I think besides Kendrick, there's not really anyone that writes like J. Cole, my man. I'm sorry. Like,
well, to be able... There's definitely lyricists on it. and above his level, though.
I think so, but not in his lane, like not for what he's doing and not for the type of shit that he's been able to do and the way that he's been able to make it commercially successful.
There's better lyricists than J. Cole.
No, I think there's better lyricists, but in his lane and like what he's doing and at the impact level that he's at, I don't think there's anyone. I could go through like, let's say, underground artists that have done it, but they're still not on the level of J. Cole for me musically.
I think so. I think there's people above J. Cole in terms of lyricists. I think that he is one of the best around today. I think he has one of the best catalogs, but I don't like that he's backpedaling because J. Cole has always been the guy to be competitive. I mean, take it back to January 28th off of 2014 Forest Hills Drive, where, he rapped, "You might be Drizzy Drake, you might be Kendrick Lamar, but check the birth date, you're not the guy. Cole's the guy." So he's had that, but mind you, on that same album, he spoke about how everybody is a king in hip hop. But if you go to songs like The Climb Back or his feature on Off D's, he referred to himself recently as the GOAT.
Yeah, so exactly. So he's not backpedaling in any way.
But on this song, I wanted him to have more of that spirit of being like, I'm that top guy. Because that's the energy that Kendrick and Drake are on.
I get you, but like he's been doing that. He's probably been like one of the most active, rappers in the past 3 years when it comes to, defending his penship and talking about how great he is on a track and how no one could really touch him.
All I'm saying is that I'm confused, man. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying by the approach that he
took.
What
are you confused by with that bar? Let me ask you, like, what makes you sort of question, him backpedaling and him
he's
taking
accepting and he's saying, yeah, those guys are superstars to me. He's not saying, well, I am.
Bro, he's showing them love, man.
He's accepting that bronze to me. That's what he's doing. Like, don't mention the bar at all.
Do you think someone of his stature and his catalog and how deep he is into his career would say, yes, I'm below anyone? And he has addressed it.
I didn't say that he said he's below someone. I said that he's
you said
confused.
He accepted the third.
He's confused. It sounds like it. I'm not saying he did. It sounds like it. That's the vibe I'm getting. And he's not challenging that thought. He's
challenged it on many different occasions.
Stage. He didn't really have anything to say. Like,
I know, but like, I'm not going to go over feeling and body language. Like if I'm looking at what's actually going on.
I feel like you just can't accept my interpretation, but it's my point of view on the bars. And I just feel like that's what he was going with.
No, but like still, like the guy's like showing him love. Like it's not like, I don't think it's a point to where like he's saying like, yes, here, Kendrick and Drake get the keys and like that's what it is. But let's actually dive into this conversation and say like, what each of these rappers, hold on their own and which type of lanes they dominate. So let's talk about J. Cole first. Where do you think he dominates? And I'm going to say this, like when it comes to J. Cole's music, I feel as if he's the most in tune with his fan base out of all the other three for me, because that's what J. Cole's built his content matter off of, is like that relatability factor, him being able to connect to his fans. So do you think that that's probably the best aspect out of his music?
Oh, for sure. It's definitely the relatability and the fact that he's able to bring us these universal messages, and they might be complex, but he kind of breaks it down in a simple way. I wouldn't say that you'll find the most mind-blowing, complex concepts within all of his tracks. I mean, what he did with For Your Eyes Only was impressive in terms of a concept project, but he's kind of taking you through everyday struggles that everybody faces, and that's why so many people could relate to his music. And I mean, I think that's what Cole does best, is like you said, he relates to his fan base, and he's been consistent over the years, giving us not only songs that are very touching and heartwarming like Love Yours, but also songs that have a very politically driven message like Change, for example.
There's a lot of different, J. Cole content material as well. I think that when it comes to penship, he's like, I think each of their pens are different in a different way, and I think that J. Cole's is more in the way where he's able to explain these socially conscious messages and being able to be so relatable, but with simple language and being able to relate to you. Like that's what I think J. Cole does so well, is it's just way too relatable for people, and he uses that platform for good, because not only that, but there's also diversity in his penship, because he won't steer away from making a concept album either. I mean, look at For Your Eyes Only and KOD. Two great projects that had a beautiful message and had a really well executed theme within it, but still had that relatability factor. So I think that that's maybe what J. Cole does the best out of all three of them, is being able to communicate to that fan base. But going on it, like what else do you think he dominates over the other two?
I would say that's the main one, to be honest.
You wouldn't have anything else that you would say like maybe J. Cole touches upon?
That he does better than the other two? It's
what
a good question. I would say that as of late, his feature performances have been incredible, but
I think maybe
the other two have had great feature runs too. So no, I think that's all that
there's another thing I'm going to say though too. he's also a producer. Like that's the other thing.
That's true.
There's another thing.
He is a great producer as well.
There's another
yeah.
thing that J. Cole has is that I think he's also able to write out a track list better than any other artist because he's gone platinum with no features before. We see how his catalog is built up. Like this guy it's him. It's no one else besides him. He's producing his own beats and he's doing his own material and he doesn't need anyone else to come in and do his shit. So I think that's another
but
big
I
strong
also
point
feel like that's kind
set.
of held him back because I did like some of the production that I heard on the off season. Like it was cool to see him get influences from other artists. I do see it as a big strong point that he's even produced for artists like Kendrick himself. You know what I mean? If you look back at The Jig Is Up, for example. But yeah, I think that is a big advantage for Cole, but it's kind of limited his sound in certain projects, in certain areas. But
the thing is that has it really taken away from the projects? Because if you look
if
you look at his catalog and what he's produced, those, in my opinion, are timeless
But to me,
classics,
like KOD, for example, could have used the touch of other producers, in my opinion.
In what way, like sonically, like where do you feel as if other producers would have helped them build up that track list?
It depends because with him, like the beats themselves in that album were a statement because he had trap beats there to prove a statement that he can imitate or use these staccato flows and rap over these 808s, but do it better than some of the newer generation artists. But let's move on to Drake and his strengths now. And I feel like with Drake, he just makes the most accessible music out of everybody.
That's very true.
He touches so many subgenres when you have R&B in the mix, dancehall, pop, hip hop, of course. And I think with Drake, you have to really think about the fact that yes, there's a conversation always of, who's the better rapper out of three? But when it comes to singing, it's Drake. Like it's very clearly Drake. So he's a better singer out of everybody else. Not only that, but I think the fact that he could tackle these different subgenres and put out, for example, drill songs like Demons is a big plus. The fact that he could put out dancehall songs like Controlla, that's a big plus for me because he has that wide catalog and wide, I would say, palette of different tastes and songs.
That's for sure. The diversity within the sounds is definitely dominated by Drake, and I think that to a certain extent, maybe on the genre bending, but I'm also going to make a point with Kendrick later on once we get to his part. But I think what Drake does best too is like being able to be so commercially successful. I mean, people don't like to talk about it, especially when it comes to the quality of the music, but
it matters.
It does matter to a certain extent because that's how many people he's reaching with his music. That's how many people are engaged and in tune with what he's doing with his career. Now, does it have an advantage over Kendrick and J. Cole? No, because I think that they're all commercially successful artists, but if you want to talk about who's really pushing that boundary on the commercial side of things, it's Drake. Not only that, but the way that Drake was able to take, hip hop and bring it to a whole different mainstream level. He was the biggest artist from the 2010 decade. Like, I'm not going to argue that. And I'm a major Kendrick fan. Like, the way he was able to do that and push the genre was fucking beautiful because, yes, maybe you could question, the quality of music at times or, the fact that the writing might be a bit off, but he's taking this whole thing to a whole different level for the whole genre. Yeah. So I think that's what I appreciate more, too.
One more thing I want to mention that Drake has as a strength maybe over the other two, and it depends the way that you kind of look at the situation, but for me, he has been the most consistent in terms of output. Like a lot of fans, are kind of cool with, waiting 3-4 years for a project, but Drake has kept his fans eating because the last time that Drake didn't drop a project was in 2014. So for the last 7 years, he's given us volume. He's given us consistent projects on a yearly basis. So I do salute him for dropping that much.
So let me ask you though, okay? I want to ask you a question. That's a really good fact you brought up, but I'm going to kind of flip it on its back now, okay? Would you have rather him take a year off or 2 years off and deliver maybe on the better side of things with Scorpion and CLB? Like, how do you feel about that? Do you think that you've seen maybe the quality diminish over the years because he's been so active and he's maybe, ran out at a certain point? Like, what do you feel about that whole situation?
Listen, I feel like, he's always working on music like a lot of these artists always are. And I love the idea. I think that, yes, sometimes the studio albums could have been more calculated. And I think that if he waited more time, he would have been able to put out better projects. With that, I do agree with. But the idea of putting out these mixtapes for the fans to eat in the meantime for an album is fucking genius. And they have been solid, man.
They've been solid. They have been really solid. Absolutely. Even like the way that he's able to form his projects, I think is even not a bit better than the other two. But I like the diversity within this split. You know what I'm trying to say? Like Kendrick, you'll only get studio albums. J. Cole, like he's been...
Well, Kendrick gave us Untitled and Mastered.
But I mean, like,
it's rare. Yeah, you don't get that
rare,
often.
Like, but the thing is that even J. Cole, like, besides the offseason is still considered a studio album. He hasn't really dropped a mixtape in the past decade. So I mean, with Drake, it's cool because not only is he bringing mixtapes into the flavor, but he's also bringing in playlists with like more life. So I think also like the diversity in the way that he packages his music is genius because not everyone's going to gravitate towards it. We know that. We know, a lot of people don't fuck with like that diversity within Drake's sound, but when it comes to the overall packaging and the diversity, I think he gets it. But let's move on to Kendrick. So first thing I'm going to say first, his catalog is the best out of the three.
Easily.
And that is no fucking debate. His discography is one of the best of all time. He's 4 for 4 right now with Section 80, GKMC, To Pimp a Butterfly, and damn, even if you want to throw in Untitled and Mastered, that was fantastic. And I think when it comes to catalog, like there's very few people that can touch him like
There's no question. And I mean, it's not to put down the other two artists, but it's just Kendrick simply already has one of the best discographies of all time in hip-hop, in my opinion. So I think there's no question in terms of catalog, in terms of the bodies of work, which of course is very important when you're looking at, ranking these artists.
Is it the most important factor?
Oof.
That's a good conversation.
That's a good conversation. It's up there, but like skill is very important
too.
too.
So let's go on to skill. Like, okay, let's try and reasonably map out Kendrick's skill set. Okay, there's a lot of things that go into it. I want to talk about the storytelling. I think when it comes to storytelling, yes, J. Cole is absolutely fantastic. We've seen songs like For Your Eyes Only, do absolute wonders for him. One of the best, written songs that I heard of 2016, but Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, How Much a Dollar Cost, Fear. Like, there's just Duckworth. Like, there's just way too many songs in Kendrick's catalog that leaves you sort of mind blown. So, besides that, what else do you think, adds to his arsenal that he does best than everyone else?
Listen, man, definitely the voice switches, the ability to just be a master and to contort his vocals any way that he wants. Like, he's like a fucking acrobat with his voice, man.
That's
and
facts.
He'll do it multiple times on one song. Even on fucking feature verses, he's able to unleash that. Look at Mona Lisa. Look at Family Ties. So I think the ability to manipulate his voice, he's up there with the Young Thugs and with the Andre 3000s in that kind of respect. Not only that, but I feel like more than the other two, Kendrick is very important as an artist because he makes you think critically on a societal kind of standpoint. He makes you reflect and have this deep meditation about things that we face on an everyday basis. And that's the opposite kind of when you put J. Cole in the equation, is that, yes, J. Cole is presenting you at times the same ideas, but Kendrick is writing about it in a much more complex way and really being more in depth with the issues.
I think that J. Cole does do it. I mean, I've heard a lot of different songs, like example, like Window Pane, like off of KOD, and even like, let's say, Let Go of My Hand, off of the off season where he does it. But it's not the most prominent base of his subject matter. I mean, there's so many different deep J. Cole songs, but I think it's more done on a human level. When we're talking about the way Kendrick connects to the world, I think it's more on like a spiritual and global level. It's more of like he's making you think about shit. And like it can get very dark listening to Kendrick's music because it's so upfront, it's so real. Like I feel as if there's also very few times where Kendrick provides filler in his album. Like I've never heard filler on a Kendrick album or even on a Kendrick song for that fact. I think when it comes to the consistency in the music and what I'm hearing out of the verses, I think Kendrick's also the most consistent on that standpoint. Also, when it comes to pen game, I think he blows them both out of the water.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy, to be honest, in terms of that. And also, another strength I want to give to Kendrick is the fact that I think that musically his songs are way more layered than the other two. I think that if you look at a song like Swimming Pools, for example, packaged as this club banger, but deep down, it's really about alcohol addiction and how it consumes people. Like the way that there's multiple meanings in one fucking song on so many Kendrick songs is mind-blowing. And not only that, but another thing that you have to salute Kendrick for is that he's been able to be one of the most commercially successful artists of the 2010s decade, but he never had to sacrifice a message to do it.
That's true.
He never had to sacrifice the message to do it.
Because we were talking about the commercial success of Drake, and there's times where you question Drake's material because of like the pop attempt, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like he has to eat, and he's there to kill the charts. Like there's no problem there. But if you want to talk about Kendrick and the way he's been doing it, I mean, take Damn, for example, versus More Life. I know one was a playlist and I know one was a studio album, but smoked it out of the water as far as sales go first week. It was a much more successful project, and it came out at a time where both of them were Well, Drake, I think Drake's peak was views for me, but he was still in that era. And then Kendrick's like popularity was at an all-time high with Damn. So it was crazy to see how he was speaking to so many people, but with this deep, profound message. Like, go through a Kendrick song and tell me how many words you don't understand off the first bat, and how many times you have to go back to Genius and go read a bar over. Like, it's incredible that he's able to provide that type of content matter while being able to sustain that commercial success
and reach so many people, man.
That's
I
for
think
sure.
that's what's brilliant. But all right, guys, let's get into it. We've spoken about the strengths. We've spoken about our interpretation on the bar from Heaven's EP, which I still believe is J. Cole kind of backpedaling and being like, yeah, I don't know where my position lies in hip hop. You disagree with me, it's fine. But speaking on the placement and the ranking, I think first of all, we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we even ranking? Because some people like to do these rankings in terms of MCs. Some people like to do it in terms of artists. So when people are, let's say, giving Cole the bronze, do you think it's as an overall artist? Do you think it's as an MC? What do you think people are kind of referring to?
I think people see the conversation like this. They think Kendrick is the best rapper. They think Drake is the most commercially successful rapper. And then they just say like, oh, okay, J. Cole's to the side because he's in the middle point. But I think when you have to look at it as a whole, like, the conversation is much closer than we think. I think, yes, maybe J. Cole isn't as commercially successful as Drake or Kendrick. And maybe he's not as good as MC as Kendrick. But he has everything. He has all of what they have packaged into one rapper. And that's what I like about it. He has the accessibility of Drake because of how simple his lyrics are sometimes and how he's able to be so relatable to his fan base. Not only that, but he's his own producer, so I salute him for that. That's a major W for me because those other two guys don't produce their own music as well. And not only that, but when we're talking about consistency of catalog, I think that maybe J. Cole has a slight edge over Drake, but doesn't necessarily top over Kendrick for me because it's one of the best discographies of all time.
So as an artist, is Cole last place? Does he get the bronze when you're looking at top 3 artists within the big 3?
Artist or rapper? What do you want?
Okay, let's start off with artists, because for artists, for me
What are we
personally,
considering?
listen, in terms of overall artistry, number 1 for me is Kendrick Lamar.
I think that's a lot.
Number 2 is Drake. I'm sorry, I have to give, in terms of artistry, I gotta give J. Cole the bronze.
Is it the diversity?
It is a diversity in sound. I feel like he's maybe lacking a bit on that. I do feel like he has the better catalog than Drake, not over Kendrick. And I just feel like I don't want to say he played it safe, because on the offseason he did experiment with the melodic flows and he did get the features again. He did change it up. But I feel like in terms of his sound, in terms of what he's able to do vocally, in terms of what he's given me in terms of songs and his songwriting, I don't know. I feel like Drake has done more. He's gone above those bounds.
Okay, you see, I'm going to disagree with you there because I agree on the diversity. I think you got it spot on with the diversity. I think that J. Cole's a better writer than Drake when it comes to rapping and structuring his bars and
We're
songs.
not talking about the MC. We'll get into the MC list after.
I know, but it kind of dives into the artistry.
As an overall artist.
I'm still giving it to J. Cole because of the producing. I think the producing is so impressive.
I don't think
to
that's
me.
enough.
I think it's massive. Like, as an artist,
he's a great producer,
being
but
able to
he's
produce
not Kanye West either.
but being able to produce platinum records and catalogs like that for yourself while being able to be, the second best MC in this conversation, for me, that's a big fucking major W. Like, that's like that for me means everything because you have that duality. Like, you're that two-way player. You're able to play both
If
sides
you want
of
to
the
talk
court.
about duality, Drake is the true chameleon, though. I'm sorry. Like,
I
his
think
ability
to sing, yes.
to sing,
I
to
know.
rap, to go into these trap-flavored songs, to go into these drill-flavored songs.
I've seen J. Cole do trap before, and it sounds really, really, really good, and it's been super commercially successful for him.
I don't know. But Drake just fits into those pockets easier, and it kind of just, he gravitates towards them more, and I just feel like in terms of also the quality of the projects, like, yes, love KOD. The off-season's great too, but I mean, look, they're better than Drake's catalog, but the output is also another plus for me with Drake there.
I know, but I'm also looking at it from a standpoint where, like, yes, Drake maybe gets the commercial success, the diversity, and the singing, but J. Cole also has for me the strong structure, the catalog, and also the producing. So I think that it's such a big toss-up. It's a major toss-up. Like, if you were to put one at one place and one at the other, I wouldn't hurt you. But
okay,
let's go. Like,
let's talk about as an MC now. All right. So as a rapper, as a lyricist, Kendrick is number one.
Absolutely.
I don't care, guys. Please argue with us in the comments on that one if you want to, because there's no debate. I'm sorry. We've seen what Kendrick's done. We've seen just the rhyme schemes. We've seen the double entendres from Kendrick. We've seen the enriched vocabulary. It's night and day. It really is night and day.
And especially,
but to talk about J. Cole and Drake as lyricists, to me as an MC, listen, obviously we know about the whole ghostwriting allegations, and to me, it doesn't necessarily ruin Drake's lyrical tracks in any way because Drake's always been a great rapper, and to be honest, like we will never know how much of his catalog's been ghostwritten, but it doesn't matter because we know him to be a quality writer and rapper. And not only that, but as an MC, yes, the pen, what you're writing from pen to paper is what matters the most, but also your delivery, the way you're performing the bars also matters. So Drake is great in that respect, but when I don't know whose words I'm hearing and when I can't buy into what the artist is kind of telling me, then it's hard for me to put Drake in that second place, to be honest.
I don't know because you see that's where I'm gonna have to disagree with you because you said it doesn't matter, but low key it does matter to you. Though.
I didn't say it doesn't matter.
Well, not that it doesn't matter. You said that like it doesn't take away from his writing though. So,
I said it doesn't take away from his overall contributions as an MC because the delivery, the way that he's using these flows, that's maybe him unless we get reference tracks. But nonetheless, the reason why I put J. Cole over him is yes, I do think he has wittier punchlines. Yes, I do think overall, no matter what we've gotten, he has the better raps and the better bars. But it would be a closer conversation is what I'm trying to say if Drake didn't have the ghostwriting stuff.
I guess you could say that. I mean, listen, the thing is that...
Because to me, once he did that, he fell into the lane of the Diddy's or of the Kanye West, of that producer kind of artist.
But he's not, doesn't produce, though. He doesn't produce his own stuff like
I know, but he's kind of just that overhead artist. So for me, I can't put him as that top lyricist. I can't.
I could. I definitely could. Because this is the thing, though, is that it's kind of intangible, right? Because what are we going to do? We're going to go look at Genius credits and, like, try to, like, knock down who did what? Like, that's my whole thing with the conversation is I understand where you're coming from because there is a validity to that conversation. But the whole thing that debunks it for me is that I wasn't there in that room writing with him. I wasn't there. So as a fan of his music, I have to be able to give him the benefit of the doubt that his best material was written by him. Obviously, there was, like, Rico. Like, I know there was the whole Rico... what was it? Rico and what else?
It was Rico. It was a couple songs off if you're reading this too late. But listen,
like how much does the conversation really have weight?
Listen,
at this point?
I think it was. I'm not sure exactly who it was. I don't want to misquote. I think it was MC Light, but he said the one who puts the pen to paper should be the one who holds the microphone, and I couldn't agree more. Like if you're selling me a product, if you're telling me a story about yourself or about someone else, if you're giving me those words as an MC, the truest form of hip hop, like. It has to be yours, or else the validity kind of goes sideways for me. So for that reason, it knocks him down a few points. It does.
The only reason why is because I wasn't there in that room. Like I don't know. Like that's the only shady thing about it. And plus, like.
But do you agree that Cole is on top as a lyricist?
Absolutely. I think so, but I don't think
so
it's because of the ghostwriting
aside, okay.
Ghostwriting aside, I think so, absolutely. Like looking at catalog, looking at the tracks that J. Cole has written, looking at the type of introspection that he's gone into, like the concepts he's explained, the storytelling's a big plus for me. Like,
so it sounds like even on an all-time list, you have Kendrick, Cole, and then Drake last. So Drake gets the bronze in your book.
Yes.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I think so. I think so because I'm trying to look from it from like a bird eye view, like everything considered, like what do I value in music? And I think that genuinely, like J. Cole is one of the best MCs that I've ever seen do it, like from my generation at least. Like
I feel you.
There was a time where I was seriously considering who's the better MC, Kendrick and J. Cole, and obviously over time that question was answered with catalog. But when it comes to writing and when it comes to being a true MC, I don't think
Cole's on that level though of Kendrick in terms of writing, in terms of the bars.
At a certain point, he was for me. At a certain point, I think he was. Once I heard "To Pimp a Butterfly" and once I heard "Damn," I think that it was just an automatic lock for me. I think that was probably the biggest part for me. But
I feel you.
Okay, so
for myself, I just as an all-time list. Look, I don't know if I can really give Cole the bronze. Look, for me, I have two different answers. For the MCs, Drake is third, J. Cole second. For artistry, Drake's a phenomenal fucking artist, and he's above Cole in that respect. So. I do give Cole the bronze in terms of overall artistry. In terms of MCs, he gets the silver for me. So
I think the one thing that we could all agree on is that Kendrick's the number one for sure. I think,
for sure, easily.
And I think it's miles away from everyone. It's just he's been able to do it on a different level, and it's kind of like an Andre 3K conversation at this point. Like, this guy is gonna go down as one of the best to ever do it on an all-time list, and There's no, like, how could you even argue, Kendrick's quality at this point? It's above and beyond everyone, and he's been the leader of his generation. Now, the thing I salute Drake for, though, is the way he's been able to push hip hop to a whole different level commercially. Like, he's provided so many opportunities for so many different types of rappers in different lanes. The way he's been able to, make lanes prominent too, in my opinion, is a big plus side to his game. Because, example, take drill. Like, that was massive. Like, what he was able to do with Fabio, like having him on Dark Lane demo tapes kind of even bolstered it to a whole different level. Like, being able to dive into trap too with, What a Time to Be Alive. And if you're reading this, it's too late. If he didn't do those projects, would trap be in the position that they're in right now?
Yeah. And also salute to Cole for building out one of the best rosters that we have in hip hop right now. Like, that's another thing that's
a major thing too.
We already know what his next step is. We already know where Cole is going to go, when he does finally retire, which I hope I never see the day, because I want him to keep dropping music when he comes with the hunger that he had on songs like Heaven's EP. And to me, I just feel like the whole situation, just to kind of, conclude my thoughts on it, is that, like, J. Cole is wondering where his stamp on hip hop is going to be when it's all said and done, because we know he's a great writer. We know he's given us great projects, but to kind of break it down to a very simple standpoint, Drake's the numbers guy, all right? That's set in stone. And Kendrick is the impact guy. Kendrick has made a difference in social and political matters. So I feel like he's left kind of knowing where his stamp is, which it is there. We kind of have a hard time carving it out because it is about relating to other artists. It is about putting other artists on and creating opportunities. It is about also providing counsel for next generations, which is a big thing that we saw in songs like Middle Child, and also a big theme on KOD, where he's talking about drug culture within hip hop. So I do love to see him taking that father role, let's say, in the hip hop game. But I think he's left kind of wondering where his final stamp is going to be. Not only that, but I think he might feel confused also, because I think he expected the offseason to do better commercially, because I did personally. I expected it to do well over 300K with the amazing rollout that he had with that album, because if you think about it, KOD was a surprise drop, and it sold more than the offseason.
I think it's the pandemic, though. I don't know. I don't like looking at it like that, because
there's also a tour attached to it. Like, what is the pandemic affecting at that point? People are still bumping music.
I know,
like,
but we've seen it affect everyone. Like, Drake
more
sold,
in the past, though.
Well, Drake sold under 130,000 with Scorpion. Well, not under 130,000 off from Scorpion.
But
with CLB.
I think at this point the pandemic is affecting it less and less. But
I know, but think about this too. Like, he dropped. When did J. Cole drop exactly? Was it May? I believe.
Yeah, he dropped in May.
It was still a time where, like, the waters were unsure. Like, there was no rumbling. So he was the one that kind of broke that silence, and I have to salute him for that too. But guys, listen, it's an even way split between all of these artists. I think that, in my opinion, my official listing would go Kendrick as gold, silver goes to J. Cole, and bronze goes to Drake. And I'm a massive fan of all three of these artists. But
I do have one more question for you, though.
Okay, go for it.
But before that, I do want to say my final ranking is gold for Kendrick in terms of artistry, silver for Drake in terms of artistry, and Cole gets the bronze for artistry. But for the MC list, once again, Kendrick gold, J. Cole silver, Drake bronze. But my last question for you is this: Kendrick is supposedly dropping a new album in 2021. Do you think it will undoubtedly be better than CLB in the offseason?
I think the offseason is much better than CLB.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
easily.
I don't think that's a question. But when it comes
will it top
to
the offseason, you think?
Yes.
I think so too.
I think yes. I think anytime Kendrick drops, like, you have to kind of just give him that number one spot, because you know what type of quality he's going to put out. You also know that what he's going to be putting out is different than anything we've ever heard, right?
Facts.
Like, this is going to be a whole different direction sonically. I think people are actually going to not like it at the beginning. I think people are going to call it mid, because it's going to be so different and out from whatever they've heard.
I don't know, man.
I think people are going to be like that, but that's the reception with most albums these days. It's like fan bases aren't necessarily used to the sounds, and they kind of get thrown off by it, and automatically, oh, it's a 5. Oh, I can't listen to this anymore. Yeah. Go into the album, give it a chance, understand what's trying to go down, and appreciate the artistry. But yes, I think Kendrick would be. How about you? Like, what's your?
I totally agree. I think that CLB is not in the running for that race. But Kendrick, any year he drops, no matter who else drops, he's always a front runner for album of the year. And I think that as good as the offseason is, it's not one of Cole's best albums. So I think that Kendrick can easily outdo it. But we'll have to see if
I think he's
going to
come back and take the throne. I think that there's one guy left missing, and it's Kendrick.
He said 2021, I ain't taking no prisoners. So Kendrick wants all the smoke with whoever wants it. So we'll have to end up seeing what happens. But guys, let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. Do you think Cole deserves the bronze? And are you excited for new material from Kendrick Lamar, which is supposedly coming in 2021? You can't be sure these days, but let us know, guys. And thank you so much for watching this episode the whole way through. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.